people know who come to my talks, I might have you do everything but dance. So be prepared. So I am grateful, of course, to MPH at UNC for the opportunity to be the first keynote for the first Immersions program. This little girl from SPHG 721. Thank you to Dean Reimer. What she did not say was that when I was here as a student, I had a lot of questions, just like I ask you guys questions. And she was more than accommodating. She was an advocate. And she spoke her truth, which is what I tell all of my students in my section. I thank Dana Rice, my fellow BU graduate who brought me back as an adjunct faculty member here. And I thank Chandra Caldwell, who was a therapist in many ways for my time here. And she always says, I get the P and the H and you get the D for your degree. So I thank you all for being here. I thank the school for the excellent training that I received here. There's a reason I decided to come back and sow into the next generation of public health leaders. So I thank you for being here today. And here you go, let's jump on the Bahby train. Who can tell me who this individual is?
Bill Jenkins.
Bill Jenkins. Who is Bill Jenkins? How many of you attended the Minority Health Conference yesterday? He is the reason you were there. Bill Jenkins is a graduate of the school. He was the whistleblower for the Tuskegee syphilis study. He's a public health advocate. He was a teacher here. And he showed up for our student organization meetings like he was an actual member, a quiet disruptor. And he would often come with his wife, Diana Rowley, who's a physician. And we knew that we had people with us standing in the gap. And so the very conference that you attended yesterday was started because Bill Jenkins had questions. And he wanted to know who is serving minority populations, who's bringing these issues to the top so that we can address them. And the Minority Health Conference was started in 1977. So he's the reason you were here yesterday. This is the reason I'm here today. This is my mother. As Dean Reimer said, if you had an opportunity to listen to my interview with Frank Statio, my mother passed away my second year of graduate school, and what I did not share in that interview is that she attended classes with me when she came to visit. So my last space and my last time with my mother was in this classroom in the basement of this new building, Hooker, and 2007 at our Minority Health Conference debriefing meeting. So this space holds very special meaning for me and to me. I'm sure, like you, I have had several great celebratory moments. I've had frustrating moments. I've had moments where I almost crawled through this building. And I'm sure you've almost crawled through your living rooms because you have 15 papers due. So know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you are poised to do very great things in this world. So I wanted to start with gratitude. So a little bit about me. In my section, my students know. I'm not going to give you many charts or anything today. We're talking. We're talking. So I'm a seeker and speaker of truth. I am committed to being a lifetime learner. I'm an optimist. I'm straight, no chaser, and I tell it like it is. Does that sound right, my section?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Did I miss anything? Okay. So even as a consultant and when I was a student, please don't put this on the internet. No, you can, Dexter. I'm just playing. Cheese. It's fine. No, it's fine. It's fine. So for me, I always want to be the light in the room, and I always want to be at the beginning. I want to learn what's happening with problems. I want to be a part of the solution. So I don't understand when dots don't connect. I'm an optimist. I'm a learner. Give it to me straight. That's who I am. How many of you can agree that this is the existence in public health as a field? Oh, you're right. There's not a right or wrong answer. So this is what I've learned in the field of public health. There are people like Dean Reimer who align behind you and who are advocates and who understand the context in which issues fester. And there's some people who just, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? And they've been in the position for 30, 40, or 50 years. So I titled this talk, Shifting Cultural Curtains Intentionally, because I have been in rooms, in many ways, public health we're doing great things, but in many ways, it's kind of a mess. And so I want to raise your awareness today and to think about, I told you guys, you're going to learn some things today, I want you to think about the places and spaces that you enter where you speak your truth and where you advocate for communities or you're developing programs or policies, whether you are really shifting culture and shifting thought, or if you're just kind of shifting the curtain. The individuals around you are really giving critical thought about changing culture, or if we're just kind of shifting the curtain. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I'm gonna make this plain for you. So I told you all these things about me. I'm also, yes, this is me. I enter a lot of spaces where, again, I'm looking for truth. I'm looking for solutions. I'm looking for innovation. And I can go very quickly from this to this. And I've earned a lot of nicknames in this school, like Sojourner Truth, Stonewall Jackson, you name it. I have the nicknames, and that's okay. But ultimately, anyone who knows me and anyone who knows the work that I do, they know that I'm a sower and I'm a shaker. How many of you have heard movers and shakers or moving and shaking? What does that really mean? To me, that means you're moving and you're shaking, you know? So it's important for me as I reflect as my ultimate legacy in public health, and I hope that you also reflect in your ultimate legacy in public health, that you are sowing into the communities you serve, that you're sowing into the generation coming behind you, that you're sowing into the very environments that you work every day in your buildings. Because when you sow, you shake and you move things. That's why I'm an adjunct faculty member, and that's why I came back to UNC at Chapel Hill. That's why. So I'm going to introduce you to some sowers and shakers. When I have my classes, I share with you, I have my expertise, I have my specialty, but I also believe that the wisdom is in the room. That sounds very Hebe, right? I believe the wisdom is in the room. I would like to hear from you. But that's true. You have your lived experience, you have your life, you have the context in which you live. I would also like to learn from you. So some of the quotes you see today, I'm not going to point at you, but I have moments where I pause and I stop because they're very profound moments. And it makes me think about sowing and shaking. And my students have done this for me quite often. But I'm going to start with number one, and that is Bill Jenkins. How many of you have had an opportunity to see his keynote at the American Public Health Association? Homework, this is what I need you to do. Bill Jenkins gave an amazing, amazing keynote. And I'm going to wrap up the talk with this as well. And what he really talked about is the need for us to be servant leaders. Citations are beautiful. They don't help you sleep at night. They probably won't follow you to your grave, but they're great. He called us, and I'll read this quote, "It's the development of servant leaders which will make an impact on health disparities and provide social justice in healthcare, public health, and health research. It is they who will care more about people than publications. They will ask the hard questions. They will speak for those who are unable to speak for themselves." I won't spend a lot of time on this, but that was a turning point for me as a public health student because I was looking to impact lives. And as part of everything we're doing, you should have something tangible at the end of your work. You should have a publication. You should have a poster. You should have a policy brief. But our ultimate goal is to achieve wellness for communities, right? Whether your issue is tobacco, obesity, cancer, mental health, you want to improve the health of communities. So our ultimate goal at all times needs to be servant leaders, a commitment to serve and a commitment to lead. So as I shared with you, Bill Jenkins came to our minority student caucus meetings. He would walk in and, real quiet. He's a soft-spoken man, but very, very powerful. And I remember being in a meeting because I was a very shy student. Like when I sign on for the first 2 weeks with my students and they look like deer in headlights, I'm like, speak. And so I honestly didn't speak a lot, but I learned the importance of my voice. So I'll give you a little backstory. We were talking about events like this, increasing access and opportunity for students to learn more about this amazing school of public health. And some of the comments we were hearing were, well, we're looking for qualified minority students. And this was Bill's response. Well, what do you mean qualified? I tell my students to always ask questions. Why would he ask this question? I don't ask trick questions, I promise you.
It's a real question. What do you mean qualified?
I mean qualified. What does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah. Why
Okay, say more. Can someone, thank you. I love crowd participation. Can anyone else piggyback on that? Great. Yes, ma'am. Ah, so this seems kind of subjective. What does qualified mean? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Who else? You guys aren't even my students. I'm so proud of you. I'm sorry? Qualified for what? Admission to the school. Admission to the school. Or admission to a program.
I think understanding that people's lived experience of something can make them as qualified of an expert to speak to it than a job experience or academic.
Oh, okay. So even that term, yeah, these are all great. And then do you use that term with every other demographic? Do you say qualified women? Do you say qualified men? Do you say qualified any other population? And this is when I started asking questions. I thought, oh, how powerful is it? How powerful is it to ask these questions so that you understand the context in which you're trying to make change? How powerful is that? And people think that asking questions or resistance or inquiries are challenging, like you're supposed to run on the field like Braveheart. No, we're not asking you to do all of that, but it's important that you ask these sorts of questions. So, another one, another sower and shaker. Someone in my course asked, who remembers the second lecture or the third lecture on cultural humility and cultural competence and race and racism? Okay, you remember? I know you were excited about that one. And then you broke out into 3 small groups and you got to read articles from Hawaii and from MSM youth here in Buncombe County. I know you guys remember. Yep. Right. And one of the questions that I heard from you, or what I heard from a student in this room was, is an apology enough? And I'll tell you why she asked, because one of the articles, and these were amazing articles that really talked about context, resilience, life course, racism, all of these things. And one of the articles talked about the government giving an apology. And so she had a genuine question. She said, is an apology enough? And the moment was like, wow, 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 wow. It was so profound to me that she thought to ask that. And then I posed, well, tell me, I'm using my qualitative hat, tell me more about your question. Well, it seems that an apology would fix the issue. And I said, well, tell me more. Still use my qualitative hat. Tell me more. Do you guys remember this discussion? Tell me more. So how many of you have had great dates with people? Great dates. Went out for popcorn that cost $12 and yeah, okay. Okay. Let's say you dated somebody who was fabulous and they made a mistake. And you had a discussion about it. Let's say you saw them with someone else in a car. I don't know, you saw them somewhere. And they offer you an apology. I say, I'm so sorry, that was wrong. Is that enough? Why? You need to know it's not gonna happen again. Why else?
Action.
Huh, I'm sorry, what?
Action. You need actions speak louder than words.
Oh, so don't do that again. Okay, and in our course, we're speaking through the lens of equity, right? So if you apologize for, in this particular article, it was colonialism, and I believe Hawaii, what comes after that apology? What are the actions? How do we achieve equity and make sure that these populations now have access and opportunity to treatment, prevention, care, and wellness? It blew my mind. I won't point at her. She's here, though. Is an apology enough? Another student here, I'm kind of making contact with her right now. Social determinants of health. Who has come across this term as part of their coursework? But why are you laughing? Wait. This is an important framework to understand. And we all know that people don't just, as I said on my talk the other day, they don't just plop out of thin air. Environments are created. And the approach at which we should address problems and inequities should factor in environment, community, organizations, and individuals. So this young lady worked at a health center in a state, And they were talking so much about social determinants of health, but what they were saying did not align with social determinants of health at all. So we see that this church already has 85 buses. We're going to give them all vouchers to transport everyone around the city. Okay, but what about the people that haven't had for the past 50, 60, 70 years? That's an equity approach. That is a social determinants of health approach. That is how the boxes we see with the 3 different people at different heights, this is you sliding a box under one of them to bring them to an equal height so that they also have access and opportunity. And it was so profound to me. She emailed me because she didn't want to say it during class, but I just thought that that was so fantastic that she understood that the work that she was doing was not quite social determinants of health. And she said, well, what should I do? I said, what do I tell my section?
Ask questions.
Ask questions and speak your truth. That's all you can do. And know that change takes time. It takes time. How many of you feel you're sowers or shakers? You will by the time you finish today. So this brings me to you. And I do this in full humor because I know these situations happen so much. I want you to be prepared. So I'm going to give you some examples of tests that you might have as public health researchers, public health practitioners. You guys got to tell me my time. I'll be up here till 5 o'clock. Public health researchers, practitioners, professors, advocates, organizers. You're going to have some tests, and I'm just going to let you know what they look like. And if they look familiar to you, you can do, this is what we do. You can do some of these. Or clap or shout. I'm Southern Baptist. Hey, you can do one of those. Whatever works for you works for me. So these are some tests that you might have. And this is part of my evolution from a student to ultimately doing the work that I do today. This is called the copy and paste test. Uh-oh. How many of you have been brought into a place or space that you are positioned to make change, and you see this list of recommendations, and you look at it and you say, was this written in 1950 or? Uh-oh, okay, okay. How many of you have seen programs that have been developed that when you kind of look at the breakdown, you feel like, well, is it 1920 or 2020? How many of you speak your truth? This is my challenge to you today. This is my challenge to you today. So if in 1920, we see racism, social cohesion, segregation, inequality, jobs, addiction, diet, the social ecological framework, and it looks the same in 2020, who are we waiting for? So if you can take the recommendations for something that says, incorporate more women or have more women at the table, include more racial and ethnic minorities, include technical assistance and capacity building, and it looks like all you have to do is erase the date and it could have been 1950, it is time to shake and move. I had a conversation with Dean Reimer that was so exciting on Thursday night. The conversations that we're having in 2020, we were not having 15 years ago. Now is the time. You either jump on the train or you will miss it. We are not having the same conversations that we had 15, 30, 50 years ago. We're shaking and we're moving. So you have a critical decision to make. Are you going to be a leader or are you going to be a laggard? Going to be an innovator or are you just going to, Use the power and the tools that you are learning in your courses, with your peers, in your everyday work to speak truth to power, or this might be copied and pasted into, I don't know if we're going to be around till 3020 with global warming, but anyway, might be copied and pasted to another date or another time. So that's one test you might see. Speak your truth. What looks like some of these contextual factors have been driving this problem for quite some time now? What are some new solutions we can think about in terms of curbing some of these epidemics? Did I hurt anybody's feelings? Okay. Even if I did, I'm not in control of that, so good luck. Okay. The next one is bless their heart test. What does bless their heart mean in the good South? You're mumbling. When someone says, well, bless their heart, and then it's followed by like, blink, 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 bless their heart. I wanted to call this the clueless test, but I wanted to be nice. So I'm going to give you another quick situation. I started my program here at UNC the year that Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, Mississippi, the entire Delta. And we were in class, and it was so awesome that our teacher, our professor, gave us an opportunity to speak about it. We didn't know who was mourning whom, who came from what community, who had friends at Tulane. But one of my fellow students, and she didn't leave UNC this way, we got her. But one of the students said, we're here to learn from our peers. One of the things she said was, I don't understand why the people at the Superdome didn't just get on the bus when they told them to. That's a true statement. But why is that problematic? Right back to that social ecological framework. Use your tools in class. Right back to understanding context. Back to understanding that the Ninth Ward is not Chapel Hill. It's not Durham. It's not Apex. It's not Cary. Area is extremely impoverished. They're landfills. It's not a great place. So getting on transportation probably wasn't the easiest thing to do. But she didn't leave that way, I promise you. So there are people who are uninformed, and that's okay. We all came to this place and space uninformed on something. Our job is to say, well, have you thought about some of the contextual factors that even led to the Ninth Ward being the place that was most prone to being flooded? Let's talk about it. Smile. Next test. I'm glad you guys are smiling. Tardy for the party. Who's old enough to know about this song? I'm so aging myself. Don't be tardy to the party. Oh, okay. This is when reality TV is something else. But anyway, this was the beginning of reality TV. There was a song called Don't Be Tardy to the Party. You never want to be that person who is not up to date on things. My comments on your papers are citation, citation, citation. Right? What is the most current information that we have? Yeah, I'm sorry. I love you the same. I love you the same. Make sure that you have the most up-to-date information for your particular issue. There is no excuse with the advent of Google Scholar, Google, PubMed, your peers, your professors to say, oh, I didn't know that wasn't that. Level up. So these are some of the things you might hear. I want you to be ready for the party. You ready? Well, in the past, I say this to be facetious, but how many, not before you got to UNC, because I know our syllabi are great, but how many of you looked at your syllabus or your citations and they were all men, 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 and more men, okay. This is why we have hashtag cite women, or cite black women, or cite so-and-so and such and such, right? I started to put on the TV show, but I didn't do it. Well, we're working on, the issue is, do not miss this train. Make sure that you have your information tucked away and you are poised and ready to stand in the gap in your respective industries. How many people feel like sowers and shakers now? Okay. So we'll skip through this really quickly. This was the most profound test to me, and I'll tell you why. Who's read the wonderful book about love languages? Made your love life fantastic, didn't it? Who can just give me a synopsis of what love languages are? Yeah, there are no right, in academia, there are no right or wrong answers. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like there, I don't remember how many there are.
Five. Oh, now we're, okay. Well, aren't we awake now?
It's how you either receive, or you can have different ways that you receive and give love. Like, I give gifts, but gifts are not how I receive love.
Okay.
So it's just an understanding of how you share your love and how you most readily accept love. Like, I don't like hugs, but my husband likes hugs, and that's unfortunate.
Okay. So I heard everyone say 5. What are the 5 love languages? Physical touch. Words of affirmation, quality time. Okay, A+ everybody. So, love languages are expressions of your commitment. Your commitment to someone. And so I had the opportunity to see Ayanna Presley speak about 2 weeks ago, and she said, my love language is policy. And when I tell you another profound moment, imagine your love language for your work, your commitment for your work being policy. Imagine. I was looking all over to find the meme for this. Imagine if your commitment to your work was ultimately, and we know there need to be multiple levels of influence, but if part of that commitment is that you are looking at policy and how that's shaping the work that you do. The meme's out there. You guys can find it, but it was after this. So now I'm going to give you some tips as you navigate your journey. I'm so honored that you think I butterflied, like, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to give you some tips as you navigate your journey so that you leave here as 5 minutes, wow, as sowers and shakers in your work. You're going to be a Gillings graduate. We don't sit on the sidelines. We don't do that. We show up. We speak. We shift and shake things. We don't shift curtains. We shift culture. We push change. And so now you've joined this great group. This is what you need to do to be a sower and shaker. There'll be a ceremony afterwards. Totally playing. Expand your vocabulary. Bill Jenkins, I told you I would wrap up or summarize this talk with him at APHA, talked about the importance of speaking words that you not speaking them don't mean they don't exist. He talked about power with the little p and power with the big P. And he challenged all of us, these tens of thousands of people at the APHA keynote, to say racism. And I waited for silence. Everyone said it. So I challenge you to add some words to your vocabulary. Let's try the first one. Colonialism. Oppression. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Okay. Power. Privilege. Racism. White supremacy. These aren't feelings. These are factual, objective things that exist. There's plenty of evidence. Expand your vocabulary so when you're sitting at the table, you're having the right conversation. You have not missed that train. I'm moving fast, I promise you. Expand your knowledge. Who are these three people? I'll see, going back to that men. Who are these three people? Okay, I'm going to give you a bonus. One of them focused on upstream factors or social determinants of health. One of them is known for being, absolutely, creating intersectionality, and the other one is known for community-based participatory research. Two of them are from this institution. I'll tell you, since I'm down to like 2 minutes. Kimberly Crenshaw, first picture, intersectionality. Second picture, John Hatch, Jack Geiger, in Mississippi Delta, doing upstream work. They talked about the conference yesterday. Ethel Jean Jackson, right here in the Hebe department, community-based participatory research. Expand your knowledge. Everything is not a homogeneous contribution to moving forward on this work, particularly when they're from here. All right, 2 more, we gotta go. Expand your network. This is what I tell people when I teach networking workshops. If everyone in your network looks like you, thinks like you, smells like you, it's 2020. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to be invited to your home to the potluck, but we are all contributors to each other's work. So make sure that you know someone who does not have the same background that you do, or is not from the same place that you are. Your network is what's going to propel you in your career. It's 99% of the game. My last charge to you as I wrap up is expanding your horizons. These are my babies. You're the first immersions class for MPH at UNC. You decided to pursue your MPH online at the top public school of public health in the nation. What's next? What is next for you? My final charge to you is to be committed. Make your love language policy. Make your love language advocacy. Make your love language whatever it is, but be committed to being a leader, someone who shifts culture, who shifts change, doesn't just shift curtains, because you're not going to go away. They're not going to go. They are there in whatever you do. And continue to stay connected. I heard so many of you guys saying, I didn't know how important this event was going to be. Hello, this is your network now. Like, And you're the beginning. Imagine who's going to tap into you, who's coming after you, and who you can sow into after you graduate from the school or even while you're here. So my final charge to you, I challenge my students to take a leap of faith, and I don't do this to be vain. I do this because when you walk in your truth, when you establish your purpose, when you mobilize your network, when you expand everything I've told you to expand, and you decide to spread your wings as a butterfly and do something a little bit different, this is what happens. I am in my 6th year of entrepreneurship, and these are my clients for my program evaluation research company.
Wow, that's awesome.
These are the places and spaces I'm able to have conversations and push narratives and change things. What's your screenshot? What's your screenshot? So my final words to you, hey Justice, thank you. My final words to you are to expand your vocabulary, expand your network, expand your horizons, speak your truth and be committed to change. And sow into the very people in this room, because they're going to be your network, your advocates, the people that bring you back, the people who own the P and the H in your PhD. We don't leave. We show up and we show out. Thank you.